Hi there, this is Sean, and I am going to quickly go over how to make a drywall repair. Fixing a patch in drywall is absolutely a great way that any homeowner can add value to the house when they're trying to prep it to get ready. I'm talking about holes behind doors, that you don't have a door stop and the door handle hits the wall and goes through. If you're a landlord, you probably are well aware of that issue. And I know there's a lot of guys and gals out there, investors, that are like, oh, you should get pros to do this, 10x, don't do it yourself. But these are really ways that you can add value to your home. So particularly if you're a homeowner and you want to quickly spruce up your house, this is absolutely something that will recoup the cost. I mean, we're talking tens of dollars of material. If you just, a little practice, you can knock it out really fast. Knock it out's a bit of a pun because I'm about to knock a hole in a piece of drywall. But yeah, let's get to it. So I'm going to pick up the phone because as a DIY person, I don't have a special setup here, but I'll show you the materials we'll need and we'll get going. So when you're fixing a hole in drywall, here's the things that you're going to need in no particular order, but some drywall knives. That's to put the mud or the joint compound on the wall. Now don't do as I do, do as I say, not as I do. I'm actually currently unfreezing my joint compound, commonly known as mud. Well, I call it mud because it's kind of muddy. I think other people call it mud too. The reason I'm having to unfreeze it is I live up in the Rockies of Colorado, and stupid me, I left it in my car overnight and it froze. So yeah, it's not a big deal, not for me anyway. Not a total pro, but you need the knives, you need some joint compound. Here, let me do this in order. Material or tools. So you're going to need a utility knife just to make some cuts, tape measure, a drill. The drill is actually in the garage, but that's the battery. You'll get the idea soon. What else? You need the knives, that's another tool you need. And then for me, I need my old trusty hairdryer to unfreeze my mud. This actually, if you live in the Rockies, this is a really cool thing to have, just a cheap old hairdryer to dry things out, warm your shoes up. So then the materials, obviously drywall. That's going to be my drywall that I put a hole in. You need some drywall. Let's grab this. Need some drywall to create a patch, or what's going to go over the hole, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Some screws, and then you need some little pieces of wood to brace it. Then of course, in the name of prevention, so many of the holes I see in properties that we visit, I'm one of those we buy houses companies. We go in, check them out, buy them as is. But yeah, I see a lot of holes behind doors because the door handle has gone through the wall, through the drywall. They don't have a door stop. And guys, girls, people, these are like a buck. They're super fast to install. Yeah, let me show you. 1 second, I'm going to put the phone down. Sorry, that was a bit weird. So to install it, it's just that little piece. You screw that into the wall. Maybe I'll do a demo of this, and then you screw that in, and like 2 seconds later, your door handle won't hit the drywall. You won't get a hole in the wall. You won't have to watch this video of me. You won't have to see my ugly mug. But we're going to pretend you didn't do that because you're silly like me. You got a hole in the wall, and now we are going to fix it, because this is absolutely something you can fix to add value when you're getting a house ready to sell. So I'm going to hit the pause, go get my drill, and come right back. Okay, I think we're ready. A couple other things actually that I didn't mention, that if you're on a home improvement website, they'd be like, oh, you need this, 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 and this. But it's a drywall mud pan, so it's like a silver. I got silver ones or little red plastic ones. It's something you can put the mud in. If you're a DIY person fixing one and you don't want to spend the extra 20 bucks, I mean, if you're okay with it, I'm cool if you just use a piece of cardboard or something, put a little mud on it. You know, ideally you don't want to be double dipping out of your joint compound, because you can put stuff in there. Like when you're painting, for example, you don't want to be dipping straight into the paint can because you put particulates in there and the paint dries out. Same happens with the joint compound, so ideally you want to transfer it out. I've kind of semi-ruined my 5-gallon bucket of mud here anyway because I froze it. I mean, it should unfreeze, it might be okay. Purists might not agree. So I'm gonna break the cardinal rule, or do a cardinal sin and be double dipping. If you watch Seinfeld, that might make you giggle a bit. You definitely want to do that. But the fun part, let's make a hole. So pretend that this cool hammer, I picked this up at a house that we bought a long time ago. It's pretty rad. It's a beast. So we are going to put a hole in the wall. Oh, noisy neighbors. I am a duplex owner, so that we've got a party wall. My neighbors next door do have kids, but the time is like 10:30. I know they take a nap at 12. Me and James have a good relationship. We, try and be good neighbors, so it's okay if I make a hole. But let's pretend this is the door handle, and woo! Boom! You got a hole in the wall. Drywall is actually pretty tough, but okay, so you can see that's a little smaller than a door handle hole, but you're looking at a 2-inch hole. Honestly, a 2-inch hole is no harder than a 5-inch, 6-inch hole. It's the steps are the same. So let's get to work. I'm going to put the phone back over here. So I got some free hands, and so when there's a hole in the drywall, the first thing that I do is actually make the patch out of another piece of drywall. I don't try and fit the patch to the hole. I fit the hole to the patch. So what I'm going to do is cut out a piece of drywall of this, a decent size. You don't want to work with a fiddly bit. So we'll say like a 6x6. I'm going to cut it. And then once I've cut this out, I'm going to come over to my piece of broken drywall, fit it, create a little mark, and then cut out the nice square there. So I'll put you on pause, cut my 6x6 patch, my drywall patch. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've actually brought you out in the garage because I don't want to create a mess in the house. One thing with drywall is it does create some pretty fine dust that it's a nightmare to clean up, and it just kind of goes everywhere. So as my fantastic wife spent a while cleaning last night, boy, I'd get in trouble. And I like a clean house too. So I don't want to be rude to her, I want to be respectful for her. So cutting drywall is pretty easy. You just want to score it 4 or 5 times with a utility knife. I don't know if you can see that I did that. And then it just snaps. See, boom. Get the same little utility knife. And what I'm going to do is score it on the back so that the paper card cuts nice. So now I have a much smaller piece. I'm going to halve it again. Well, I said 6x6, right? So let's at least try and be a little bit. I mean, straight lines make the cutting easier, but it doesn't have to be exact. That's one of the nice things with drywalling. I mean, if you can drywall some patches, it really opens up a lot of stuff when it comes to being a handy person. certainly making something that you can repair in your house to add value. So there's my little patch. You saw, honestly, that took like 30 seconds to create. Let's go back inside and attach it. Alright, I'm back. I got something with a serrated edge that's way more appropriate for this. Yeah, I'm creating a bit of a mess now in my living room, but I got this cardboard box underneath, so I'm generally okay with it. So I'm just doing, cutting down to the corner. We've already done that way. Coming this way. Not sure you want to see me cut, so I'm going to pause the video again, cut the hole out. I'll be right back. Okay, so the hole is cut out now. Having just done that with the wrong tools, if you're going to invest in anything, a good drywall saw is actually pretty key. It'll make sure the cut's nice. You won't damage the drywall behind. But just to show you now, test fit, so you can see our patch fits in there. It's a little loose, you know, there's about 1/8 of an inch around, but that's fine because the mud will fill that. So, moving right along, the next thing we need to do is create a support for the patch. Hopefully you can hear me. And when it comes to that, just some kind of, you know, this is 3/4 thick wood. I mean, this is just a piece of scrap. You could either do one through the middle, corners. The bigger the patch, the more of these you're going to need. Ideally, for me, if this was twice as long, I would just run it straight through the middle. It's not, so I'm going to have to do corners, which is fine. So I've got 2 of them. A tip on this is you have to use something slightly thicker. If you use something like this, which a lot of people might think is a good idea, it'll crack and it won't support it. Your patch might go, and I'm going to show you. So you see, I put the screw in there and it just actually cracked the piece of wood. So, you know, if you're going to take a little bit of time to do this, then yeah, get a nice piece of wood. Funny. And you're just going to screw it into the drywall. Now when screwing into drywall, you always want to set the head of the screw, this part, like you want to make that just below the surface of the drywall. Now you don't want to go all the way through, so make sure you go slow. But don't worry about that. If you do go all the way through, you can just repair it. So just set that with a piece of wood behind there, and then I'm just screwing it in, and setting it a little deeper. Oh, one safety thing, things are coming up as I go. Obviously I can move this piece of drywall, I can see what's behind it, but if you're setting screws in a wall, you absolutely must, like it's imperative to check for a few things for your safety. You want to check that there's no electrical wires that you're drilling into. Like, for obvious reasons, that would be really bad. I'm just setting this other corner here to support the... for the safety of your house, you don't want to put a screw into a pipe. I'm trying to do this as much as if it was on a wall. You got to reach through the hole. Oops. Oops. I just put another little hole there. I need a little more love on that.
With just one screw of Microban 24, your hard surfaces are sanitized for up to 24 hours.
Yeah, so I've set those drywall hole screws deep. I've probably gone a little bit deep, but it's okay. A really cool thing that the pros use is actually like a screwdriver with that sets it to 2 1/8 of a mil, inch. So our supports are in. You can see this goes pretty fast. Now I'm gonna screw in the patch. I'm trying to center it on the hole. Again, it's not an exact science. It just has to work. And now you've patched the hole, which obviously we're going to keep going, but to me that even looks way better. So, next thing is doing the joint compound. I'm trying to move along as quick as possible here. So for the joint compound, you need, or to mud it, you actually need the joint compound, the mud that's not frozen. Hopefully ours isn't frozen anymore. You need some tape to go over the lines. Yeah, a lot of people are tempted just to put the mud over. Don't do that, because all your hard work will look terrible in a day or two, because it will crack. The joint compound will crack. So you have to use tape. And with the tape, you just want to rip off pieces to cover the major lines. So there's pro things about overlapping the tape and things like that, but you know, we're trying to make quick, proper fix that is legit, but that, you know, you can do as a homeowner yourself. So, we've got 4 pieces of this now, boom, 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 boom. And honestly, this is how fast it is. You get some joint compound, different size knives. Just right now I'm going to use the little one. And when it comes to putting mud on repairs, this is going to look a little ugly because it's still kind of frozen. But this is something, a pro tip from a hack DIY guy. When it comes to mud, the first layer is always going to be ugly. So, you know, I've done a lot of drywall these now. I'm certainly not a pro, and those guys, like, it almost is science, but it's certainly art. The one thing I absolutely can tell you that I have learned and will save you a ton of time is if you don't try and make the first layer nice. Okay, so I've covered up all the holes there now with a layer of mud, and now we're going to put the tape on. And then just so that, because we got to get a little bit of an overlap, I like to make sure that there's plenty of mud for the overlapping place. I do try these days to avoid sanding at all costs. So sanding this drywall, again, it creates a really fine dust. Yeah, it creates a really fine dust that will just get everywhere. So now we've got the first layer of mud on, we've got some tape on, and you know, I'm not going to attest to doing this right, but you want to get that tape down on the drywall. You don't want too much on there. So I'm just kind of smoothing it out. This is actually kind of hard right now because the mud is like frozen still. It's okay. It still is working. I mean, I think, you know, not to talk myself up, but if you do a job as good as what we'll get even with frozen mud for your first one, I think you'll be pretty stoked. So still, I'm just slowly going over the tape. Just trying to squeeze it out a bit so that it's nice and smooth on the drywall. That's, you know, you don't want a big raised area. And then now that I've done that, I'm just going to come back and make sure that the tape is covered nicely. And because it is a patch that inherently is going to be a bit of a elevated, like mini mountain if you took a side view. So, you know, to make that as little noticeable as possible, you do want to feather it out. The further you feather it, the less you'll notice it, and that's actually where a larger drywall knife comes in handy. Right now I'm sticking with the little one. It's just easier for me to work this frozen mud. I'm just going to pull it back across itself several ways. Just remember, I'm just going for good coverage. I'm going for stability right now. I'm trying to I'm going for not leaving too much mud on the wall, because then you got to sand the stuff off, and that is where you get a mess. Don't put mud that you've used back in there, because there will be particulates in it and you'll ruin your mud. By now you should know I know how to do that. I'm just going to grab my larger one here. Just kind of smooth it off a little bit more. And I need to get some more material on there, as in joint compound. But honestly, I'm pretty stoked with that. How long has that taken? Like 10 minutes. And this is the first layer. I normally have to do 3, but I try and do 3 without sanding. So you can see now, I mean, already it's way better than the hole. I'm gonna flip. It's way better than what the hole was, right? And that's roughly 20 minutes to do that, and that was with me talking a bunch. So I'm gonna hit the pause button. For that to dry so that we can put the next layer on is gonna take about 2 hours, I think. It's pretty warm in here, and I'm in Colorado, so super dry. So yeah, I'll come back with the second layer. But I think you can see, like, if you fix a hole in the wall, and then obviously we'd have to paint it up, you're gonna add real value to your house. So again, we've been talking about what not to fix when getting a house ready to sell, but I wanted to hit something that I think every homeowner can do. We all like to put in a bit of sweat equity, and yeah, fixing a hole, patching drywall is absolutely something you can do, and it's quick. And heck, if you like playing with Play-Doh when you're a kid, maybe that you'll enjoy this. I love it. Anyway, we'll be back in a couple hours. So I just wanted to create a little more of an official tools and materials that you need to perform this particular fix. So I need the hammer to make the hole, a marker to outline the patch, to cut it out later. So the tools, some joint compound knives, mud knives, whatever, depending on the hole size. And if you're just doing one, honestly, don't be too fussy, and you can even use the plastic ones. You're gonna need some drywall screws, even then, any screws. Some robust little pieces of wood, I like 3/4 inch thick. Straight line to help cut the drywall. Some paper tape to make sure that the seams don't crack when you put the mud on the wall. Utility knife, drill, and the famous joint compound that I froze. So, oh, and of course, tape measure, which can also be a pointer. Alright, those are the materials you need, and the tools. Alright, it's been almost a couple of hours. Admittedly, it's not completely dry. the joint compound, the mud we put on there, but in the name of keeping it moving, and actually I need to go do something else, but I really want to get this video up. I am going to put the second coat on. Gonna bring the camera over, we'll take a look at just how the finish looks right now. We'll do, well, it's not officially knock down, but we're gonna knock off or knock down any little razors and things like that. So let's take a look. I'm gonna use my big knife. You can see maybe up close there's some like little bumps and stuff, little ridges. What you can do, particularly when it's dry, it'll just flake right off. But just run your knife. You can see when it's not dry completely, it does this, and that's actually will create a little more work for you if you're not careful. But since I'm a pro, and I'll be putting a generous amount of mud on top, but doing it right now too, you see, if I go like this and this, you can tell where the high points are because it's where the trowel is actually scuffing it. Here, not so good with video, here. So that was the first layer. It's actually not not bad at all, but I'm gonna skim a second layer. The second layer will always dry much faster because it's gonna be a lot thinner, but and hopefully actually the second coat will be a little easier because my mud won't be quite so frozen. So let's get going. Oh, and I was showing my wife this video. She thought I should say something. Cats, not kids. We love kids, we just don't have any kids of our own. So and we got a bunch of cats. We had 4, one actually just passed away, really sad for us, but another whole story. And yeah, so we got cats, we don't have kids. My friend thought it was funny to buy me the sweater, hence the sweater. But alright, let's get that second. To me, that is pretty pretty gosh darn good, especially for a second coat. I'm very happy with that. Put the lid back on the drywall. If you talk to a real pro, there might be some method of left, right, up, down. I just like to go back both ways just to create, you know, try and get into the dips. I'm going to turn the camera around. We'll closer look. I mean, the light doesn't really let you see a whole lot of imperfections, but I mean, it's kind of the fun thing, right? Let's have a look from the side. Like you can see, if you like, it's not raised at all, hardly, right? And you know, one more skim on top of that, and then just to knock the edges off. You'll notice I did not sand in between. I hate sanding, it makes a mess. That's just 5 more minutes and we're almost there. So we'll let that dry properly this time, because then the last coat will go on much more easily. But yeah, we'll be back. I'll go take care of some other chores. Talk soon.